John Meacham, pulling back and looking at the whole situation. Of course, you and I both know growing up in the Cold War about the doomsday clock. I've talked to you before, leading up to 2020, about your belief that this country was in the 1850s historically, deciding whether to move toward a civil war or to move toward peace. Obviously, the 2020 election, a short gain for democracy, a temporary gain for democracy, because the guy who was pressuring his attorney general to arrest his opponent 2 weeks before the election lost. But since then, we've had riots that he inspired. We've had him saying he was going to terminate the Constitution of the United States if he could, if that's what it took for him to get back into the White House. We've, of course, had him stealing nuclear secrets. We've had him stealing war plans. We've had him stealing documents that described America's weaknesses. We've had him caught in a conspiracy to steal an election. All of the evidence pretty damning. We have his own IT director testifying that he tried to destroy evidence that the FBI was trying to destroy the tapes. Does that sound familiar? On and on and on. And there is a lot of hand-wringing, as James Carville would say, a lot of Democratic bedwetting right now over a CNN poll that has he and Donald Trump tied at 46%. Your thoughts on the talk that continues to go around, not only about the president, but also the state of democracy and the risks that democracy faces over the next 18 months?
Well, it's the most fragile form of government. If it were easy, everybody would do it. We wouldn't be the longest functioning one, ringing in at almost 250 years, but we haven't gotten there yet. And it's fragile because it's human. It's up to us. It's about our appetites. It's about our polarization. It's about our interests, our will. And the question we have to decide every hour of every day, and this maybe this sounds grand, but it's not, is do I respect the law in dealing with you because maybe you have something I want? In Donald Trump's case, Joe Biden had an election victory. So what did he do? He had a choice, right? You can either follow the law and lose graciously, go back and try again, which is what has unfolded in this country for a long time, but is, when you think about it, globally a huge exception, right? It's unusual. So the question is, if you have something I want, my basic human instinct is to go grab it. But democracy, rule of law, the Constitution tells me that I respect what you have, and if I want it, I try to get it legally. And that's the whole thing. And it's not just because it's the right thing to do, though it happens to be, but it also protects me if I have something you want. And so I think this is a moral question. I think this is about how we are with each other. I don't believe these polls, honestly. I think basically the model is pretty hard to figure out. I don't know if you get called up, if you're going to tell the truth to somebody. I think there's a lot of trolling on the Republican side. You're right. 2020 was a step in the right direction. So was 2022. Let's not forget that. But it's always going to be hugely close. And that's why it's up to every one of us to do it.
Historian John
Maura is talking about the skepticism, Maura, really quickly. I'm so sorry, Mika. Talking about the skepticism really quickly of polling. I said that to a reporter a couple of days ago. I just, you know what? I don't want to hear the polls. I don't want to hear them because we heard that Joe Biden was going to win in a landslide in 2020. He didn't. We heard that Republicans were going to win in a massive red wave in 2022, even when we didn't feel it. But we heard it, and everybody told us, and everybody talked about it, and then it didn't happen. I really do wonder, Maura, what voter in suburban Atlanta that didn't vote for Donald Trump in 2020 is going to say, well, you know what? I didn't vote for him in 2020, but now after January the 6th and after he stole nuclear secrets and after he tried to get his own people to destroy his tapes, and after everybody that's testified against him in all these cases are people that he hired himself, and after he said he was going to terminate the Constitution, I think my friends in Alpharetta and I, we're going to go knock on doors for Donald Trump. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we like to think of polls as though they're biblical in some way, or they're perfectly scientific. It's really more of an art in many ways. It's just a snapshot in time of people you happen to catch on a certain day, who may or may not honestly tell you what their feeling is. And then you have to put it into the context of, there is a choice, and there will be a choice between two individuals. And on that day, the question is always, which voters are the most motivated to show up? How many of them are there? And of course, campaigning matters. Getting out the vote matters. And all of this is to say that there are probably many Americans who may not be feeling that excited or enthusiastic about voting for President Biden. But on the day of, I think many of them will show up anyway, because they certainly don't want the alternative in Donald Trump. I think we've seen that consistently in those polls. And so this is about turnout as much as it is about polls that are up and down on a specific candidate. So I think it's early, and you don't want to take polls just by their word and move on. This is about something bigger than that. There's a context here.
Historian Jon Meacham and The Guardian's Hugo Lowell, thank you very much for being on this morning.